And welcome back, everyone. This is Radio Free Market, and I'm going to hand this back over to Aaron. So please, Aaron, go ahead.
All right. So during the Mises exams, I got a question about the paradox of value, and this was actually really hard for me. So I'm really excited to hear your answer. And the paradox of value was that early economists, they couldn't explain, water is obviously more valuable than diamonds, but diamonds are much more expensive. Why is that?
The reason for that is because it rests in a sense on a false premise. When we talk about value is always determined at the margin. We're comparing what we can get from the marginal unit of something to what we can get from the marginal unit of something else.
And the marginal unit you mean is the last unit.
Right. Yeah. One more or one less.
Right.
So I'll run through. I covered this example in class, and one thing that I've done is I've asked, how successful would I be if I were to try to start selling Carden's Halative H2O or something like that, like my own patent medicine that's just water, and offered it for $100,000 a bottle with a slogan, "You'll die without it." And most students are pretty clear on why they're not willing to pay $100,000 for a bottle of water, and so on and so forth. And that's because water is so abundant that, say, one more half-pint bottle of water, at least in the United States, the marginal use of that, or the additional value we get from that, is maybe putting it in a balloon and throwing it at a friend. That's not something people value very highly. Whereas one more diamond, people can use that to get engaged. And presumably people place a very, very, very high value on the happiness of their future spouse.
But the supply of that water is directly related to its value. So if you're in the desert and you're holding the last bottle of water, and you're
absolutely.
attending a millionaires conference and you put it up for auction, $100,000 might be a short price.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. Yeah, because when you have very, very few bottles of water, when water is extremely scarce, then the additional satisfaction you get from a bottle of water might be the additional satisfaction you get from not dying. And people are going to be willing to sacrifice an awful lot for that. Today, though, at least in Memphis, water is very, very abundant, and the additional value that we get from that is filling up a kiddie pool or what have you. Water is so super abundant that an additional pint of water we really won't miss.
And by the way, folks, we're going to be having a show in the near future, so please watch for it. We're going to have a show probably in the next few weeks on water and property rights. We're working to set that up right now. I have a question I want to insert. Does economics actually try to tell people what they should be doing?
Oh, never. No. No, economics as such cannot say anything about people's values. Basically, what we do is to say, given whatever values people have, we have a body of principles that will help us analyze and sometimes predict a little bit the consequences of their actions. It's, I think, an unfortunate misconception that people think that economics and economists prescribe selfishness.
Okay. So we're going to move on to Principle 5, which is, again, one of these things. You do it every day, but that trade makes people better off. And it's, people kind of laugh at you if you made such an obvious statement. But Murray Rothbard said that the very existence of a trade, the fact that a trade took place, means that both people must end up better off. And why is that?
Well, basically, you wouldn't do something. You wouldn't enter into a trade unless you expect it to be better off. This gets back to the action axiom. You're not going to do things that you expect to hurt you, or you're not going to do things that you expect to make the world a worse place. However you choose to define that. So even for a masochist, we'll say, or for someone who has who wishes to see everyone in the world killed, or something to that effect, everything they do is going to be in the pursuit of some goal that they think makes the world a better place, however they choose to define that. So in the case of trade, it's a common misconception to say that one person won and one person lost, or to talk about one person getting the better end of a trade. You see this in sports all the time. People are asking, well, which team got, which team won and which team lost, and when the Cardinals traded their third baseman to the Padres for their first baseman or something like that. And the fact of the matter is, people are only willing to enter into that exchange because they expect to be made better off as a result.
Well, in your article, you simplify the concept of the division of labor by relating it to trade. And this term, division of labor, is something that I've been really focused on these last many shows. I've been focused on this quote by Ludwig von Mises that social cooperation equals the division of labor. And please tell us how trading makes everyone better off, even if they are not directly involved in the trade.
How does trade make everybody better off, even if they're not directly involved in the trade? That's kind of interesting because it does a couple of things. First, specialization actually allows us to produce more stuff with fewer resources. So trade allows us to produce more stuff with fewer resources. It allows us to produce the same stuff at lower cost. It literally expands all of our possibilities. So in the case of, so say that you have Farmer Jones in Nebraska who's trading wheat or corn to Farmer Smith in Kansas, who's giving up wheat, then they're able to actually reduce the amount of land that it takes to generate all of the corn and all of the wheat that people need in both states. And that additional land can be used to satisfy all sorts of other wants. It can be used to build housing. It can be used to build, one of my students suggested a corn maze. Anything could happen. So literally what trade does is it expands our range of possibilities.